discussing writing and awarding an award-winning technical paper. This session was put together by SPE legal section because we know a lot of students want to write papers for the SCS whose call for abstract has actually been out. So I encourage you all to make good use of this session. Ask as much questions as you want. Seek guidance. And I see you all, I hope to see you all submitting nice abstract, and which will get accepted. Then you submit your manuscript afterwards. So I wish you all the best. As I said earlier, please ask lots of questions. Don't restrict yourself. Chukwemeke is here to give you all, I believe, it's up to the tax and even more. Thank you very much.
Sorry, Mistura. Good morning. This is Odion. Good morning. Okay. Can we do the photo gallery before?
Okay, please. I would like everyone to put on their video. We can just take a good picture before we start the session. Thank you.
So just turn on your video, please, so that we have this registered before the session.
Let me start calling names.
Where is this gallery view?
David. Okay, we have Lucky's video on. Oluwaseyi, Prince. Then our facilitator. Please, let's see your face. Can you see my video? Hello, Odion, please let me know when you can see my video, because I don't think I...
Okay, so it's almost there. Stephen Eze, where you did now? Come, let's say you didn't want that place. What happened? Okay, Mr. I can see your video. Okay, I think, okay, if Oluwaseyi Aguro turns on his video, his or her video, David, Stephen coming up, Oluwaseyi Aguro, Principal B, okay, yes, we're here. Stephen Eze, if you can put your face to your video, then we should be good. Turn your camera. I don't know how you did. You can't see your face. Just go to where the light is, so that the light is on your face. Sorry for the inconvenience, right? But we can't see your face. We can see your surrounding. I'm talking to Stephen Eze. So we need to see your face. Stephen Eze, can you hear me? Yeah. Thanks for the effort, everybody. Okay, we're almost there. It's not. Stephen Eze is really making a frantic effort, but I really don't know now. Okay.
Please turn on your videos as you join.
Okay, Principal B has joined. Oluwaseyi Aguro. Okay, that's fine. Let's just be stable. If Lucky is stable, then just look for. No, don't back it. Let the light from your. I'm talking about Lucky. Let the light from your this thing be on your face. So, we want to see your face. Okay, this is fine. Just stay there. No, just go back. Just stay there as far as the light. Stay here. That's fine. This is fine. Just stay here. Don't go anywhere again, Chief Lucky. You can never add Chief. That's why I has not stopped. I've added Chief, so you can stop. Okay, great. All right, guys, let's put the smile on. I'll take a few pictures and we should be good. All right, thank you. Picture taking starts. Put up your best smile, like Lucky's smile. All right, good. Taking. I'm seeing you in 3D. No, yours is 0D because your video is not on. All right. One more. All right, thank you guys. Thank you. You can turn off your video now. Mr. Over to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Audrey. As I said earlier, forgive my background noise. So, welcome to those who are just joining this session. It was put together by SPE Legal Section to help you all write award-winning papers, and we all know papers start from submitting abstracts. Okay, no, actually from picking a good topic, submitting your abstract, getting it accepted, and now the call for paper for the Student Technical Symposium and Exhibition is out. And I'll encourage you all to use this opportunity, ask lots of questions, submit your abstract, and I believe our facilitator, Kwemeke, who is the Assistant Student Affairs Chair for SPE Legal Section, will do justice to this. As I said, ask questions, ask. And don't forget, we put out a competition for students to submit technical papers. The winner will be announced. So if you know you submitted paper, just look out for the last section where the paper review. So thank you. Over to you.
Okay, good morning all.
Good morning, sir.
As a way of introduction, I think it'd be nice to just get to know your names briefly. This session is going to be as interactive as possible. It will be good. We just get to know your name, your school, probably your location. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll start by calling names. We have David on the call. So David, introduce yourself.
Good morning. My name is David Akomolafe. I'm a student of Chemical Engineering OAU 400 level.
Oh, thank you. So next is Benga.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Benga Awojiri, 400 level petroleum engineering students, University of Ibadan.
Okay, thank you. We have Lucky, as Odion said, Chief Lucky.
Actually, I've actually graduated anyway, but
it's not a problem. It's open to everybody because YPs will also submit papers during nights and others. So it's a platform to them.
All right. Okay, so my name is Lucky. I graduated from Federal University of Petroleum Resources.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for joining us. So we have Okwade David. Okay, if David is not ready, I'll go over to Oluwaseyi Aguro. Will you be able to mute yourself? Okay. Good morning.
Mechanical engineering from.
Okay, thank you. So we have Prince.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. I am Prince Pabi, an undergraduate student of engineering.
Sorry, Prince, I didn't get you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yes, I am Prince Pabi, an undergraduate student of petroleum engineering, University of Ibadan.
Oh, okay, thank you, Prince. So I have Okidi Samuel.
Everyone, Samuel, 500 level chemical engineering.
Yeah, Mistura, sorry to intrude. Mistura, the noise from your end is actually much. Can I take over from you and just run through?
Okay, yes, please. Thank you.
Okay. Let me see. So after David, yes, we had David. Was that David Komolafe that introduced himself a while ago, or David Okunade? Okunade? Okay, so David Okunade, please go ahead.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is David Okwade. I'm an undergraduate from the Department of Petroleum Engineering, University of Ibadan. Thank you.
Yeah, great to have you. Let's have Benga Wujurin, please, quickly.
Hi, good morning once again. I already introduced myself before. Petroleum engineering student, University of Ibadan.
Okay, thank you for doing the doubles. Jay Osa. Okay, I think I should just go down. Principal B have done. Oluwaseyagun has done. Samuel Ogidi, have you done?
Hi
Is it
everyone,
Ogidi
good
or
morning.
Ogidi?
My name is Ojidi. Yeah, Ojidi Samuel. 500 level chemical engineering, Federal University of Technology, Nima.
Great to have you here. Stephen Eze. Your turn, please.
Yes, Stephen is a young graduate from the University of Benin.
When you say young graduate, what do you mean?
A young professional graduated this year.
Okay, great to have you. Temi Tokwe or Motosho, if you haven't done, please, it's your call.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Omoto Tokwe, 400 level petroleum engineering student, University of Ibadan.
All right, great to have everyone here. If Misura is okay, you can take it from here.
Okay, thank you. I think the host, the facilitator will take the call.
Yeah, thank you so much, Odion. It's good to hear your voice.
Yeah, it's good to hear over to you, sir. Thank you very much.
The weekend is going to be very good for all of us.
Amen.
I'm actually happy to see all our students.
Sorry to intrude the facilitator. Your video is a bit dark. Can you look for a brighter spot so that we see your face? Really, it's actually very dark. And I know I'm not the only one trying very hard to detect your face.
I will do that right away.
All right, sir. All right, sir. Thank you.
I'm sure the video is better now. The brightness.
Yes, it's better now. It's better now. I think yeah, it's better now. So over to you, sir. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so it's a good representative from UI to AUU, Uniben, and then the YPs amongst us. Like I said earlier on, this is going to be an interactive session. Paper writing is something that I'm always enthusiastic about. I continue learning the entire process. I've been privileged to write a couple of papers, presented a couple also, both in SPE and some other places. I want to make it as interactive as possible. So in the course of our discussion, if you want further clarification, you have a question, if you even have, if you disagree with me in the process, please feel free to do that. We have the raise hand feature. Just raise your hands. I will see it and then call on you to have the audience. We also want to make it as enjoyable as possible. That means throughout this session, there will be no dull moments. We've received 2 papers that we will look at the end of the first session. We will see those that did well and those that need probably some slight improvement to make their paper an award-winning paper. I want to thank SPE for this privilege. I want to thank the chairperson for Students Affairs. I want to thank Audion, always available on our call. Thank you so much for all that you do for Lagos session. The chairperson is not here with us. She's another fantastic person. She's been giving us all the necessary support to make this this program possible. We want to thank her for all that she has done so far. Having said that, the topic or title of this workshop or symposium is writing an award-winning technical paper. So we're not just going to concern ourselves with the intricacies of putting forward a good technical paper, but also we want a situation where what we've penned down will bring us an award. And I'm sure that SPE gives between 100 to 150K for the best paper. I don't know whether that is correct, but we'll confirm that before the value before the end of the session. So that means that if you put in some a little bit of effort, you could go home at the end of the SPE conference with that sum. And I know what 150K will do for a student. We were once a student at one point in our lives. Having said that, the slide is just a guide. There are a lot of details that are not in this slide. Because I'm speaking majorly to students, I try to put in some things just to help you, but you need to be in this workshop to appreciate the slides. There are some things I'm going to say that are not in these slides, so please pay attention. And I also encourage you to note down some of those critical points we'll be discussing in the course of this workshop. Okay, having said that, let's move to the meat of the matter. Okay, this is simple me. My name is Chuku Emeke. I'm registered with Korean. That is why you see the engineer in front of my name. For those of you who are yet to graduate, it's important that at the end of your program and haven't secured some work experience, you should register with Korean. It will help you. I work with Platform Petroleum Limited. Platform Petroleum Limited is a marginal field operator in Nigeria. Our head office is in Lagos, where our field is in Delta State. I'm currently speaking to you from one of our field locations. I have over 15 years working experience spanning both offshore and onshore operations. I actually started my career offshore. I worked in the Abo FPSO, the first deep offshore operations in Nigeria. Outside what I do, I'm a pastor, I'm a life coach, I'm a marriage consultant. That means I speak a lot concerning marriage. I'm also an investment specialist. I do a lot of investment beyond just what I do for Platform Petroleum. I'm a petroleum engineer by training. I actually started my schooling from the Petroleum Training Institute, PTI. That is where I started. Completed my HND, went back to Uniport to get my BSc, BNG, and then I proceeded to Uniben to do my master's. Currently, I'm running my PhD in petroleum economics, University of Port Harcourt, Rivers State. I'm married to Dr. Mrs. Chuku Victoria, and we are blessed with 2 kids, 10 and 9 years old. I think that is a brief about myself. In the course of our discussion, if you want to know more about me, please feel free to reach out. You can also check me out on LinkedIn. I do a lot of write-up on LinkedIn. If you've not created an account on LinkedIn, please, I will encourage you to do that because that is what will give you some level of visibility. Sorry, my light has gone off. My technicians are trying to put on the gen. Very soon the brightness will improve. Okay, so what is on the table? What are we going to be discussing today? First, we'll be looking at the elements of a technical paper, and then how to select a captivating title, because that is where it starts from. And then what does it take to write an acceptable abstract? You know, sometimes writing an abstract can be a huge burden, but we are going to just make it as simple as possible. You know, writing an abstract is not a big deal. And then we'll be looking at the technical manuscript. And after that, we'll just look at we'll review the 2 papers we've received so far, and then we'll do the Q&A. But like I said, in the course of our discussion, if you have any area of clarification, if you have any contribution, if you want to say something, please feel free. Just use the raise hand feature. You'll be recognized. I want to make this as interactive as possible. Now, just for emphasis, for you to graduate from any of the universities, you must write at least a thesis. That's one of the minimum criteria to graduate. And in the course of this presentation, you know, if you actually understand the entire value chain of what it takes to write a paper, you will not struggle to write your final year project. In fact, for some of you, you may even publish your paper before even the final graduation. I remember when I was doing my master's in Uniben, my supervisor told me that the only way is going to pass me is if I get my work published, and if I can do that, that I won't have problem with him concerning my presentation. And the truth be told, immediately I published my papers. During my defense, one of the profs, I think that was Professor Adewale, just told me that, have you published your paper? I said, yes, I've done that, sir. And he said, wow, that is good. So please just leave, let's attend to others. And that's how I left the stage. You know, so publishing your paper could also help you during your presentation. But before you can publish your paper, you must learn how to write a good technical paper. So you are in the right place. I want us to have that anticipation that there's a lot you can take home from this workshop. Okay, then before I also continue, if you're having problem with your network, you could use the chat platform. You can send us any message or any question. We will respond to them accordingly. So having said that, let's go straight to the elements of technical paper. But before then, I want us to share, I want to share this with you. What is your desire? It's man by nature is inquisitive. It means that we are always wanting to know. We want to find out what is going on around our environment, whether it is the internal environment or the external environment. We want to find out things. You know, look at children. You know, I remember taking my son out once and to a new environment, and the next thing I saw was he was busy running around the whole place, you know, wanting to find out what this new environment is all about. And that is what triggers writing a good technical paper. Your ability to want to know, your inquisitiveness. Unfortunately, you know, most of our Nigerian institutions try to kill that quality, that innate quality in us, that thing inside of us that prompts us to want to know. You know, you ask questions, some of these lecturers or profs will shut you down, you know, and that is the beginning of learning. If you don't show that enthusiasm to want to know, you will never learn. So this desire for knowledge often leads to a systematic study of whatever phenomenon we are interested in. So the moment that desire is there, you want to go further to carry out his studies. And in research, research is systematic. There are laid down guidelines. There's a way you go about it. And that is the whole essence of this workshop. So writing an award-winning technical paper starts from this burning desire. This desire to want to know. This desire, to make research, to find out what is going on, to probably to even add to what is already existing. Okay, to look out for facts, evidences. That desire is the beginning. The moment you have that desire, you can write anything. I mean anything. And trust me, what you write will always outlive you. Let me say that again. Whatever you write will always outlive you. The reason why many of us, especially in this part of the world, the reason why we are not known is because we don't like writing. We like talking. We like arguing. We like discussions. We like watching movies, but we don't like writing. And the moment you start writing, you automatically become a consultant because somehow somebody will consult those materials you've written. Each time I get this prompt from academia, telling me that, oh, this person cited your work. Oh, your name appeared in 59 search. Your name appeared in 70 search. It excites me. It means that somebody is consulting my materials, somewhere around the world. And that is the interesting thing about writing papers. Beyond just winning an award, is the fact that you want to document your own thoughts. You want to document your findings. You want people to know what you are made up of. And that is a good thing about research and writing. What makes a good technical paper? So if I pick up a paper, what am I looking at? What should I see? What should prompt my interest? Number one, a captivating and concise title. Your title should actually announce your thoughts, you announce whatever you want to put forward. The next thing I want to see in a good technical paper or an award-winning technical paper is a standard outline. A standard outline. Like I said, a scientific research follows a systematic pattern. You don't just write anyhow, so there should be an outline. We'll discuss some of these things as we go forward. And then another thing I want to see is the technical content. What are you bringing forward? What subject area, what functional area are you looking at? Okay, so we have different functional areas in petroleum engineering, for example. Are you looking at reservoir engineering, or you are looking at drilling, or you are looking at production, or you are looking at petroleum economics? What are the functional areas are you looking at? In chemical engineering, for example, also, what functional area are you looking at? Are you looking at the reactor, or you are looking at the economics of a new technology that will optimize the process? What functional area are you looking at? And the other thing I want to see also in a good technical paper is the correct writing style. It's your flow, the way you write up, is it flowing? We don't want a situation where you start from top of the mountain and at the middle you jump to the valley, and then you jump again up to the mountain, and then you get down to the valley. No, there should be a seamless flow of your thoughts. Okay. And then, very importantly, another thing I want to see in a good technical paper is your reference. There's no new knowledge anywhere. To prepare for this symposium, I needed to consult a lot of materials. I looked at all the past presentation in SPE. I looked at some textbooks, research textbooks. I looked at some other materials just to be sure that my presentation meets within minimum standard or guideline. So as you begin to write your thesis or your paper, you must reference it because there's no new knowledge anywhere. You must build on an existing knowledge. The moment you don't reference your paper, there's something is wrong with that paper, you know. And more importantly, you know, I see that sometimes people still reference papers or documents or works that were done 18 something, 1940, 1930. That also shows that whatever you are consulting is a little bit obsolete. So you must also learn how to consult recent materials. Okay, materials from 2010, 2020, you know, we'll discuss some of these things as we progress. Then, very importantly, I want to see the significance of your paper. What new? Is there anything new you are bringing to the table? Any innovative idea? You know, the reason why Elon Musk today is the richest man probably in the world currently, I don't know if somebody else has toppled him, is the fact that he's innovative. He's a man that sees 50 years from now, you know, and is doing something about this, he's bringing things forward, and people are appreciating what he's doing. So is your paper throwing out a new information? Are you presenting a new fact? Is there something different from what we already know? Okay, if you are going from Benin to Lagos, and you are following the same old route that all of us know, you are not bringing something new. But if you tell me that, oh, from Benin to Lagos, there's another route, something that we don't know, and then we will be interested. You know, that would be interesting. So it's important that your paper should throw up new information, you know, some level of, should bring value, you know, to the table. Okay, having said that, let's make progress. Key elements of a technical paper. Key elements of a technical paper. So this is the outline. This is what you should see in a technical paper. If you're writing a technical paper, your technical paper, number one, should have a title. Number two, should have an abstract. Number three, should have an introduction. Number four, should have a methodology. Number five, there should be results and discussions. And of course, having presented your results and discussed them, you should be able to conclude. And then, like we said, you must reference your work. You must reference your work. Okay, so before we now start discussing these key elements, can we take just a moment to pause? Do you have any question? Do you have any contribution? Do you have anything you feel I should emphasize before we start discussing these key elements? David, do you have any key elements? David from AAU, the chemical engineer in the making.
No, sir.
So that means you are flowing, you understand what we are saying.
Yes, sir.
All right. Does anyone have any comment, any question before we move ahead? Or you think I'm too fast, or I'm too slow, or anything? Samuel, are you okay? Okay. So I will assume that your silence means that we are doing well. Sheyi, if you have anything, please feel free to say. Okay. Haven't discussed this. Let's make some progress. Let's look at the title. Selecting a good title. I'm sure this could be some headache for some people, but selecting a good title is very, very key. You know, say a good technical paper should convey a positive impression to the readers or to your audience. If your title says a lot about the paper, You know, there are some titles I see I will lose interest, but there are some titles I will see. There's no way I will just walk past. I want to know what is behind that title. Your title can actually sell you before people even realize what you are saying. They're already falling in love with your technical paper. So you must learn how to choose a good title. For example, okay, let me just throw this out to us. Is Efe with us? Is Efe still with us? Efe from Uniben, are you still with us? Okay. If you want to present a title relating to the Nigerian nation, what do you think that title will be? The kind of title that, you know, people will want to look at. You know, what kind of title do you think will prompt people's attention? We want them to consider whatever you are writing without even looking at your paper. Can anyone just give us an example of a good title that will make that kind of impression? If you want to say it, you can unmute and just say. Prince from UI, if you're with us, can you give us an example?
Yes, sir. Curbing CO2 emission.
Curbing
CO2 emission for better climatic condition.
Excellent. Excellent. I'm sure if you put forward that title without even reading the paper, people will be interested, especially OPEC members. OPEC member countries will be interested because with the renewable gaining ground across the globe, you know, anything that can deal with CO2 emission will really help the OPEC producing countries to remain in business. So that's a very good title. Okay, can anyone also try? J. Osa says the Nexus of Corruption. That's interesting. I think if I see that title, I will want to know what it is, because corruption has become an institution. You know, the Nexus of Corruption and Nigeria, the way forward. That's a very good title. Okay, you know, if we can deal with the issue of corruption in Nigeria, I'm sure most of our problems will be solved. Okay, that's a very good title. Can anyone else try? We'll just take one more and then we'll progress. Is anyone wanting to try? Okay. So your title should have a positive impression on the reader. And you know something I've also noticed in Nigeria, negative story sells faster. So when you say, oh, shocking, 250 persons dead, so people will be interested. Negative stuff in Nigeria sells faster. And that's some newspaper magazines try to take advantage of any negative situation to sell their paper. But for us, in SPE, we try as much as possible not to dwell so much on the negatives. We are forward-looking people. We are engineers. Engineers are always forward-looking. So we don't want your title to create a negative impression. We want a positive impression. We want your title to give hope. Okay, we want your title, for example, Buhari approves NYC allowance increment. I'm sure that's a very positive title. Anybody wants to read it, anybody wants to look at how much would it be? Okay. Then the next thing about a good title is that the title should be stimulating and inviting to the reader. It should be stimulating and inviting. You know, when somebody looks at your title or your topic, let that topic be creating an inviting stimulation, such that even if the person is not interested, your topic will make the person interested, or your title. Many times, our biggest challenge in when we are doing some of these reviews is that we see titles and you lose appetite to want to look at it, even when the paper is a good paper. You know, the cover page of your book is very, very important. That is why there are specialists, there are people who specialize in designing cover page. Having written your paper or your book, you need to get people who have that skill to get the right cover page, or else people will not buy the book. So it's important you choose your topic carefully. It's important you choose your title carefully. In fact, many times, you know, while you are doing you're writing your technical paper, you know, by the time you arrive at your conclusion, you need to sit down and think deeply and ask yourself, does this title relate to my findings? Will it sell me out such that people are interested in knowing what my discussion is all about, in knowing what my results? Because to be honest with you, if people don't read your paper, they won't know what your findings are. Okay? And then your title should be as concise as possible. We don't want a very long title. It's as if you are writing you are turning your abstract into a title. We'll see some of these examples as we progress. So let's take an example and look at it. Just an example. Okay, look at this. Look at these titles. Bad versus good title. The first one is new methods and specialized techniques used by super oil companies to process and analyze pressure data. Sorry, that is supposed to be data, not date. To analyze pressure data gathered during well testing program at the Eba geothermal field. You know, if you look at this title, it looks as if the person is presenting his or her abstract. Now let's put this abstract in a better format. Let's make it as concise as possible. I think the best way to present the title will be the well testing program at Eba geothermal field. You see how concise this is, and you see that, you know, if you are going to make a search, for example, on the internet, it will be easy to type this and you get whatever materials you are looking for. But the first title is just all over the whole place. It's too wordy. You know, it creates a sense of confusion in the mind of the readers. The reader will not know what exactly your flow of discussion will be. So that state of confusion will discourage them from going further to look at your technical paper. So please note down some of these things we are saying, because as we review the paper, you will see that you will see those who did well and those who did not do well in their choice of titles. So let me ask, between these two titles, which of these titles do you prefer? Which of these titles do you prefer? Let me hear from Lucky from Footprint. Which of these titles will you prefer?
I prefer the second one because it's very concise.
Excellent, excellent. You know. Now let me also say something also, which is very, very key. Now, in your choice of title, for example, you are presenting a paper to SPE or to any international journal. Your title must speak to the theme of the journal or the conference or wherever you are presenting the paper. For example, if SPE is looking at new technologies, right? And new technologies in the oil and gas sector, or new technologies in renewables, or new technologies in curbing CO2 emission. Your title must speak to the team. You cannot be, SP will not be talking about evolving technology in renewables. And then you come up with a technical paper and the title is the impact of agricultural tools in enhancing productivity. So you see that even though your topic makes sense, but it does not make sense to SPE with regard to the team chosen by SPE. Your title will make sense when you go for conferences around agricultural, within the agricultural sector. So you must constrain yourself within the team chosen by the conference organizers. A good example is that in the paper competition we threw out, we chose a team. You know, some of you, I think one of the papers was completely out. You know, the topic did not speak to the team that was chosen. And that is very, very critical. So once the conference or the journal chooses a functional area, you must restrict your choice of the title to that functional area. So if you are dealing with drilling, for example, your title must speak to drilling. If you are dealing with a reservoir, your title must speak to reservoir. If you are dealing with wells, your title must speak to the wells. If you are dealing with petroleum economies, your title must speak to it. So this is very, very key, because sometimes we see some of this title, even before looking at the technical paper or the abstract, you know, your title has really thrown us off balance and we'll just throw away the paper, even without reading it. So let's be careful with our choice of a title. Now, having said that, before we go to the next key elements, do we have any question, any suggestion, any addition to this before we move forward? Benga, do you have any question, any clarification?
No, I actually find this clear and concise. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Benga. Thank you, Tomito Ben. All right, having said that, let's make some progress. Okay, I'm trying as much as possible not to be very fast so that we can, we still cover all that we need to do. Okay, someone just asked, Stephen A, they just asked, excuse me, what about using the team as a title? Thanks. Okay, so if you are giving a team, for example, SPE, or you're writing a technical paper in NAPI, imagine everybody uses a team as the title of their technical paper, right? The team is just a general outlay. It is to give direction to what the conference participants want to see or will be seeing. You know, usually when choosing a team, you look at the functional area within the industry, and we expect that people will generate topic within that functional area. So I don't think it would be right to just pick the team. And sometimes the team may even be too wordy. The team may not even be very concise. And like as we'll see in the course of our discussion, you need to choose a topic, a title that is researchable. Sometimes the team may be too wide. The scope will be too wide. So if you choose that team, it will be difficult to narrow it. So we'll discuss that as we make progress. Okay, so I don't think it will be nice to use the theme as your title. I don't know if I've answered your question, Stephen Ezen. Okay. All right. So let's look at criteria for selecting a good research topic. Criteria for selecting a good research topic. Number one, you should be familiar with the subject matter. Don't choose a topic that you are not familiar with. If you are, I always advise students, look at a title that you are conversant with, something that if you are called upon, you can say one or two things, right? So the first step is always do your own work, do a little bit of research around that area. Have an idea of what you want to work on. Don't just jump on a subject matter without making some little research, some little findings. So we expect that you should be familiar with the topic chosen. For example, when I did doing my master's, my thesis topic, I carved it out myself. You won't find it anywhere, because I needed to do something that is within my area of exposure, and when I presented it to my supervisor, I could see the excitement, I could see the interest, because it's not just something you find anywhere, and by the time I published the paper, I was also very happy, so you should choose a title that you are familiar with. Okay, if those of you who are doing petroleum engineering, if you have interest in drilling, I think you should look for a title within that functional area. If your interest is in reservoir engineering or reservoir, look for a title around that, because that is where your interest lies, right? You should have interest in your proposed topic. Your interest should be there. If you don't have, if you choose a title or a topic that you're not interested in, that is the beginning of frustration. You won't be able to, there will be no flow in your writing. It will be obvious for those of us who review papers. We'll see the difference. We'll know that this person is struggling with the topic. All right. And then whatever you are choosing, it should be researchable. Don't go and choose something that you cannot research. You go and a title of your project, how to the economy of mining iron ore in space. That topic alone, that it's not possible at your level. Number one, you don't have the financial muscle. Number two, you don't have the technology. Number three, where your country, Nigeria, where you are residing, is a limiting factor. If you're in US and you chose that kind of thing, of course, we can give you probably some probability of success, but choose something that is researchable, okay? And then choose a topic that is feasible, within the time frame you have. Can it be done? Ask yourself, how much time do I have, to complete this paper? For example, SPE is already calling for abstract, and there's a time frame, right? So whatever you want to do, you should always know that there's a time frame. If you have just 1 month, please don't go for something that will take 3 months. If you have just 3 months, don't go for something that will take 1 year. And then lastly, how significant is it? That thing you want to do, will it bring value? Will it add value? Is it going to produce something different from what we already know? So these are the things you should look at in choosing a research topic, or you're looking at for a title you want to work on. You know, these are very key things. Okay, my last SPE presentation, you know, I dwelt on the economics of securing our pipeline assets, because that is very topical now. You know, the level of insecurity in our country, you know, is stalling our ability to increase our production. So many times, many oil companies are produced, but they cannot evacuate because all the pipelines have been vandalized. So when you choose a topic around that, a title around that area, you see people will be interested because people are actually looking for solution to this nagging problem. And I remember after presenting that paper, a lot of the audience, especially the professors, they were excited. They wanted to know more, you know, because I came up with a different solution matrix to solve the problem. Okay, so you should choose a title, a topic that is significant to the current event that is happening around your client. Okay. Like I said, in the course of this discussion, if you have any question, any clarification, feel free to jump in and let us know. That is the reason why we are here today. So having completed the topic selection, how to select a good topic or a good title, do you have any question or any addition before we look at the abstract? We've completed one of the key elements, which is the title selection. Now we want to look at the abstract. Any question or any contribution before we progress? Okay, Stephen Eze says he cannot hear my voice from his own ends. Is there any other person that cannot hear my voice very clearly?
I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Eze, probably you need to look at your network provider, or the network within your environment is not very stable. Or another thing you can also do, log out and re-log in. When you do that, it will be clearer. If Stephen can hear me, just log out and re-log in. Okay, so let's look at the abstract. So the first thing anyone wants to find out is, what is an abstract? You know, this is very simple. Abstract shouldn't be it shouldn't be a big deal. It shouldn't be something you should crack your head over. Abstract is simply a mini summary of your work. It should be a mini summary of your work, what you've done. So usually, apart from those who are submitting proposals, so let me make this a demarcation or differentiation. When you want to send in your paper to, or when a journal calls for abstract, what they're telling you is that idea you have, what would be the likely outcome? They know you've not conducted the research. They are aware. So, but they're telling you that, okay, just summarize what would be the likely outcome of your research if you carry out the research. So many times you conduct the research, you may not get the results you wanted. You may get close. You may even go beyond the result. But what the journals or the conference organizers are asking is, put together what you are likely going to expect. So that is abstract proposal. But have you conducted the research. Your abstract is a mini summary of the work you have done. So typically your abstract should be a single paragraph, but it's not compulsory that it must be a single paragraph. Because your abstract is just selling yourself, telling people it's like you are carrying out a pitch. You are pitching for a business. You have this business idea and you want the investor to cash in to cash into flow with you to invest into your business, and you just have only 5 minutes or 1 minute to convince the investor. We are not going to start telling the investor, oh, I got my raw material from Dubai, and then I took it to Nigeria, and then I processed it, and then, the investor doesn't have time. They just want to know what are the key outcomes. The product you want to sell to me, what is the important, the significance? So that is what abstract does. Abstract is just telling us what the work you've done, the technical paper you are presenting, what is it all about? So it should be at least between 200 to 250 words maximum. Abstract is not introduction. It's not, you are not going to start telling us all the story from how you started to how you ended. And then the abstract should convey your purpose, scope, and significance of the paper you're writing. So I want to know, okay, this paper you are writing, what is the purpose? Why are you writing it? Right? And what is the scope? If you are writing about Nigeria, are you going to write about the 36th state of the country? Or you are going to constrain yourself to the south, or southwest, or northwest, or northeast? And even within the south, are you going to constrain yourself to probably Benin, or Delta State, or Port Harcourt, or Calabar? So that's exactly what we're talking about. The scope tells us to what limit, your paper, are you constraining your paper to what limit? Because you cannot be writing infinitely, okay? And then your abstract should contain your key results. At the end of this paper, this was the key findings. These were the things we discovered. Now that's what your abstract should naturally contain. So sometimes I look at abstract, I see people telling so many stories. No, it's not a place to tell stories. If you understand this concept, you can write any abstract. So typically your abstract should come last at the end of your paper. Having written your paper, having concluded, then you cannot write your abstract. Your abstract comes at the end of your thesis. You cannot be writing abstract at the beginning, because what are the key results you are going to present? Okay, so please, let's take note of this. Let's take note of this. All right, let me allow you 2 minutes to digest what I've said. Just a minute or two to just digest these things, because we're now going to the meat of the matter, so that I won't bore you too much with a lot of these technicalities. Digest what I just said. If you have any clarity, if you have any suggestion, if you have any question, please feel free to ask. All right, I see someone asked, when is the best time to select a title? Before, during, or after the research? Thank you. All right, so typically, if you don't have a title or a topic, you will not be able to put together your thoughts. Your title is the leading factor, is what is giving you the direction to your technical paper. Without a title, there's nothing to write home. But the good thing about title is that title is dynamic. So you have a title, right? You have an idea of what you want to dwell on. And then as you begin to write, you begin to see results. Results begin to come out, right? By the time you finish your technical paper, you now begin to readjust that title to convey the core message, to convey the core results. Because your title actually will prompt people to want to know what you have done. So that's why your title should be dynamic. Your title shouldn't be fixed. So for example, if we choose, the Nexus of Corruption in, what is that? The Nexus of Corruption in increasing Nigerians' productivity. And as you are writing, you now discover that there's something else beyond corruption that is affecting productivity. Your result shows that other than corruption, there's something else. Or you now discover that, beyond corruption, insecurity is the major problem why people are corrupt. Or you now discover that it is bad political leadership or bad political party that is fueling corruption. See, you can see that you can actually adjust your title to actually reflect this new finding, so that when someone sees your title, they will have an idea of where you are heading to. It will prompt their interest to want to find out more about this new finding. So your title should be dynamic. Yeah, so the student chair just asked, did you say the solution should be included in a proposal? Yes, so your anticipated solution, what are the key results are you anticipating? For example, I want to investigate the reason why Nigeria is not progressing. What are the factors that is making Nigeria not to progress? In my head, I know that one of the likely key things that is making Nigeria not to progress is probably corruption. So in your proposal, you will state it, right? You will state, because people need to know. But then they also understand that is an assumption. At the proposal level, it's still an assumption. That assumption needs to be tested. We'll discuss some of these things as we make progress. So people, in your abstract proposal, people want to find out what are the likely key results. What are the likely key solutions you are bringing forward if you carry out this paper? So it's very, very important. Please, let's not forget that. It's very, very important. Okay. Student chair, I don't know if I've answered your question. Student chair, have I answered your question?
Yes, you have.
Okay, thank you. Then, Sheyi, have I answered your question? You asked when is the best time to select a title. Have I answered your question, or you want more clarification?
I'm happy with your answer, sir.
Okay, thank you, Sheyi, for that response. I appreciate the feedback. So having discussed the abstract, I'm sure with this, you have an idea of what to look out for in an abstract. You don't want an abstract that is muddled up, that is lacking in scope. You don't want an abstract that lacks objectivity. You don't want an abstract that does not present key results, key findings. And you also don't want an abstract that is lacking value. So you look at the abstract, you're asking yourself, so what have you brought to the table? What have you brought to the table? What is different from what others have done? You know, these are very silent things that we look at when we are reviewing papers. So let's look at the technical manuscript. So at this stage now, you've selected your title. You have a very good topic, a good title. You've written your abstract. Or we assume that the abstract is yet to be written because abstract comes at the end of your paper. Okay, then let's look at the introduction. Let's look at introduction. The introduction is the true start of your paper. You want to introduce your reader to your work. You want to navigate them. Your readers are just at the gate to your compound or the gate to your university environment. They've arrived at your university environment and they are just stuck at the gate. You know, when they enter your school gate, for example, UI, you know, what are the key things they should be seeing first? If your readers arrive at University of Benin, what are the key things they should be seeing first? Those key things that they should see first is your introduction. Because now you're trying to, you know, help your readers understand your work. So this is the time to actually, you know, introduce your readers to those thoughts, those ideas. So typically, when I say typically, I mean traditionally, it's not a standard format, but for a technical paper, your introduction should be 4 paragraphs. Depending on what you are doing, it could be more than 4 paragraphs. Okay. Your technical paper is not necessarily your thesis. For a good thesis, you can carve out as much as 2 to 3 technical paper from a good master's thesis. For a PhD thesis, you should be able to carve out 4 and above technical paper from a PhD thesis. So technical paper is just a session, a key session of your result findings that you present. Okay, so please let's take note of that. So we don't expect you to start writing plenty pages. You know, your technical paper should be within say 12 to 16 or 17 pages. You know, 15 pages is fine, 14 pages is fine. You know, it shouldn't be too ambiguous. So please let's take note of that. So I expect that your introduction should carry 4 paragraphs. The first paragraph should cover your definitions and theories. So you want to define those terms. Assume that your readers are not technical, they are non-technical people, they are laymen. You know, your audience are from different field of studies. You are speaking to somebody that is from a medical field or from arts or from the life sciences. You know, you want to define those terms, those jargons, such that they will be able to follow your discussion. For us in petroleum engineering, we have jargons. You know, when you're talking about well bore, you're talking about skin. You know, somebody from other departments will not understand what you're talking about. But if you take your time to define those terms, you know, you lay out your theories, ensure that you write in a simple English language. You know, sometimes people try to mesmerize us with high-sounding languages. No, you know, I will not encourage that. Okay, you should be able to have complete control of your lexicons, of your language, such that people, the ordinary person somewhere, should be able to understand what you're talking about. Okay. Your first paragraph also should also contain why you are carrying out the work. Why are you doing what you are doing? You know, people want to know. And then the second paragraph, paragraph 2 and 3, should cover literature reviews. Now, this is one area that confuses a lot of students. Literature review is very simple. It's not rocket science. It's not difficult. In literature review, we're only saying whatever you are doing, someone else have done something similar to it. So you need to share your thoughts from other people's thoughts. That is what you are saying. You need to tell us that this thing you are doing, somebody has done it, but this is what the person did. And this is what I'm doing differently. That is literature review. And for a typical technical paper, we want to see you review 1 or 2 papers from other sources. You could do 4, you could do 5, but you should be able to reference. You should be able to say, oh, this is what Mr. A did. This is what Mr. C did. You can agree with them or even disagree with them. That is the whole essence of literature review. So it's not difficult, okay? And some of the sources of literature review where you can get papers to review in carrying out your technical paper, one of such is Science Direct. A lot of you focus so much attention on Google. Google is not a good place to get very sound technical paper. You just go type the topic and all manners of things come out. Go to Science Direct. Use SPE 1 Pro. Okay, use SPE. We have a lot of technical papers. The advantage of being an SPE member is that you have access to unlimited resources. Unlimited resources. So a lot of these resources are documented. That is one good thing about SPE. As I was preparing for this workshop, I needed to consult what has been done in SPE, so that I will know how to present my thoughts and probably add to what has already been done. So you could consult Science Direct, you could consult 1 Pro, you could consult your textbook. And in textbook, I mean recent textbooks. Some textbooks were published 14 something, 18 something. Consult recent textbooks that have been written, because we believe such textbooks carry more recent information. And then consult journals. Consult journals. All right. I expect that as you begin to read other people's technical presentation, ideas will begin to prompt up in your mind. And you could use what other people have written to justify whatever you are bringing forward. Now, let me give you a practical example. I remember when I was putting up my master's thesis, because what I was doing was completely new, but I needed to look at what other people have done. It took me time. I finally found a journal that related to what I wanted to do. And I quickly wrote a mail to the writers, asking them for an appointment to meet with them, to discuss further their paper. Because as you study those papers, you will see gaps. You will see gaps. Even in some of those technical papers, in their conclusion, they will tell you that, oh, these are gaps that are meant for further studies. And those gaps can form research areas. That's the essence of reviewing past work. Many times, and I speak to students, we don't want to study, we don't want to read. We don't want to read, so we just want to go to Google and just Google at anything. It doesn't work that way. A good source of project topics and technical papers is looking at what other people have done. Look at their conclusions, look at their recommendations. You will see that they've identified gaps. Even those who did not identify gaps, as you study them, you can identify the gaps yourself. If you look at my technical, I took out some of my papers I published some years back. I discovered gaps in my own paper. And some of these gaps, I'm going to work on them and come up with a new paper to close up those gaps. Probably my discussion of results were not properly done, or my inference was not properly drawn. You see, or I did not relate it well to the economic situation, the prevailing economic situation, or I did not connect it to the external environment. So these are things you can look forward to. And you can only do that when you review papers, you look at what other people have done. So literature review typically looks at what other people have done in regard to what you are doing presently. Okay. And then paragraph 4 covers the statement of purpose and the goal of the work. So in your introduction, you want to look at why are you doing what you are doing? And then we want to also understand the scope of what you want to do. So this covers the introduction. So when I look at your introduction, I want to see definitions, I want to see theories, I want to see literature review, I want to see works that have been reviewed relating to what you are discussing. I want to see that your purpose of carrying out the work is clearly stated, very clearly stated, and I want to understand what is your aim of carrying out that research. Having said that, before I go to the next important discussion, can I take any question, contribution? Just take some few seconds to absorb what I've said. Any question, contribution, addition? Do we all understand? Can we progress? Benga, do you have any question, any area of clarification?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay. What about Sheyi? Sheyi, are you following us? Do you understand what we're saying?
Yes, sir. I was going to ask about the consulting other texts, other research works. Like how do you define recent? How soon is recent? Like in terms of number of years. And what if somebody cannot find a published work within that research within the given time that you have defined?
Wow. Thank you, Sheyi, for that very, very good question. I was expecting that somebody would pick that up. So typically for us in the industry, or those of us who play at the research level, we want to see research work from 2010 upward, right? There are a lot of work that have been done within this century. Many times we pick up some of your project and paperwork and we see what was done in 1920, 1940 something, 1950 something. There have been a lot of changes, between that time and this time. A lot of paperwork has been done. Okay, so when we say recent, we want to look at the 1920, 2000 upward, 2010 precisely upward. Okay, and it's very, very important that you cite recent works. And let me tell you something. It gives your paper some level of credence, some level of confidence when somebody sees that what you are citing is recent. It makes us understand that you are following up trends. If you begin to cite, I'm not saying that you should not cite anything beyond 2010, but let most of your citing be 2010 upward. You could just cite one old paper, but let the others be, recent papers. Okay. Sheyi, have I answered your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Any other feedback on that before we progress? Okay, if there's none, we'll make some progress. Okay, so let's look at the main body, the meat of the matter. Okay, probably I'll spend a little bit of time here to discuss this part, and I expect you to ask questions because this is core to your technical paper. This is very, very core. You've chosen a very good title. You have done your introduction, and your introduction is wow, is explicit, is straight to the point. You've defined all your terms, you've presented the theories, you've cited recent work. Now it is time to present your main work, the main body. What did you do? So, for example, I want to travel from Lagos to Benin. The end game is to arrive at Benin. And I'm leaving Lagos 6 a.m. in the morning. And I plan to arrive Benin by 2 p.m. How will I get myself from Lagos to Benin? How? That is the methodology. That is the methodology, the how. So in your main body, you need to tell us, how will you carry out this research work? This thing you want to do, how? The reason why it's called a technical paper, first and foremost, because it's scientific. And the moment you mention science, it means that it is going to involve empirical data. You are going to play with data. You are going to generate data. You are going to utilize data. So in this part, you are going to tell us how. How will you generate that data? What are you going to use to analyze that data? There are two sources of data, for example. You have the primary source of data, and you have the secondary source of data. The primary source of data is the raw data that you derive from experiment. You carry out an experiment and you note down some facts, or you document changes. That documentation of facts, that documentation of information is called data. That is primary generation of data. You are generating data yourself. Or you go to the company that is generating data and acquire that data. Or as you are carrying out that experiment, you are noting down changes, temperature changes, pressure changes, and other parameters that are critical to that experiment. That is primary data. And we always encourage students to use primary data. Because primary data will throw up new facts, new information, Primary data makes scholars excited. If you want to make me happy, just send me data. Data that have not been used, raw data that has not been refined, data that has not been touched. So it is you that will now begin to work on that data, refine it, put it in a presentable format. Any good lecturer will be excited seeing primary data. They will be more excited than getting a alert in the account. Data to a lecturer gives higher excitement than even account alert, money alert. Because as a scholar, it means that you're going to present something new. You're going to work on something new. So these are the two sources of data. You have the primary source of data and you have the secondary source of data. The secondary source of data are data that have already been refined, that are already been used, that is applicable to what you want to achieve. So secondary source of data is also allowed. But in the use of secondary source of data, you must cite the source. You must cite where you got it from World Bank, from NBS, from SPE, from DPR. You must cite the source. So if you also see a secondary data, it's also usable as long as you are not repeating what somebody else has done. Okay. Now, having said that, so methodology simply tells you how you want to go about that research. What are you going to use? The kind of equipment you are going to use. For example, if I'm traveling from Lagos to Benin, am I going to use vehicle? God is good motto. Or am I going to use flight, airpiece, or ARIC, or Aero? Am I going to use speedboat? It's possible to use speedboat. Or am I going to use air transfer? I don't know if there's any technology such as air transfer, but I'm just saying, am I going to disappear and land in Benin? So you are going to tell us how you will get to Benin. Say, oh, my outcome, my expected result is to get to Benin, but to get to Benin, I'll convey a vehicle from a beggar to Benin. That is your methodology. Okay. So you also tell us the data you have generated. What are you going to use to analyze it? What tool, what software, what computer application are you going to use to carry out the analysis? So you state it clearly. And once that is done, you are ready. That is where a lot of people fail. They don't take this as very important. They don't tell us, they just go straight and start throwing data at us. They won't tell us how they generated that data. They won't tell us what they use in analyzing the data. So please take note of this important point. Now, I've shown us your methodology. The next key thing we want to see in a sound technical paper is your results. Your results. How you organize your results. Sometimes some people don't put their results. They'll just say, oh, I moved from Lagos and arrived in Benin, and that is it. They won't tell us anything that happened in between Lagos and Benin. They won't tell us that, oh, in already stopped to eat ishewu or to eat coca fish. Within the road, we saw 7 roadblocks. We saw army checkpoints. So you now begin to discuss your result, things you noticed, things you saw, things that are different from what is available. And in doing that, you must present your results in using charts, graphs. You can use the line graph. Make it beautiful. There are beautiful tools out there for us to use. You know, you cannot. It's not. It doesn't mean that you should have graphs and charts all over the place. No. You know, you must select key results you want to represent in charts or in graphs, so that and make it beautiful. When somebody looks at it, they say, "Oh wow, this person has done something nice." And after presented your results in charts and graphs, the next thing that is very important is that you must discuss each of those graphs and charts. You want to tell us that you will now begin to discover trends when you put it in a chart or you put it in a graph. You begin to see trends. You now begin to see that, oh, there's an exponential increase or there's an exponential decrease. You begin to see, oh, this increase is not exponential. It's just additive. You begin to tell us things. That's the whole extent, that discussion. In discussion, you shouldn't be too wordy. Just go straight to the point. You know, you begin to relate those graphs to real life cases. That brings us to your conclusion, right? That brings us to your conclusion. Having discussed your result, how do you conclude? You relate the work to the bigger picture. You see, we talked about Nigeria, for example. Having discovered that corruption is endemic, corruption is systematic, it's in our system. Corruption is cancerous. You cannot begin to relate that corruption to why our GDP is low. You see that now? You cannot begin to relate that corruption to why there's increased insecurity. Why? Because with corruption, right, there's less money, less disposable income in the hands of people, the household. Because there's less disposable income, there's not enough money to spend. People cannot afford things they want. And what will be the result of that? Insecurity. With insecurity spread across the country, what will that affect? Productivity. So you relate your key finding to the bigger picture, to the industry. You relate it to reality. Many times we see that people have this fantastic result. They've discussed it, but they cannot connect it to reality. They cannot connect it to the happenings. So I was saying something about one of the papers I presented. So I looked at the economics of the economic impact of this pipeline vandalization in our nation. What is the, how will I conclude? So you see that with the high rate, the increasing rate of pipeline vandalization in our nation is affecting our ability to meet our OPEC quota. And because we cannot meet our OPEC quota, our revenue has dropped. In other words, we will not be able to fund our national budget. As long as we cannot fund our national budget, there will continually be infrastructural deficit. We will not be able to construct new roads. We will not be able to repair the bad spots in our express roads. And what will be the implication of this? There will be increased accident rates. What will be another implication of that? The death rate will increase. That means that our population will begin to decline. And that things that you need to have to increase your GDP. There are certain things that, certain factors you look at to improve your GDP. Number one, the quantity and the quality of your labor force. The quantity and the quality of your labor force. The quality and the quantity of your capital stock. The quality of your technology, the technology at your disposal. So you see how you relate, you connect this thing to the bigger picture. The moment you have a fantastic conclusion, trust me, your abstract will be sparkling. Your abstract will be looking for audience. When people see your abstract, they will be interested in your paper because you have been able to connect your findings to reality, to evolving matters. You have been able to connect your findings to the bigger picture. And in doing that, you'll be able to bring forward recommendation. Your recommendation will be maybe gaps, policy gaps. Your recommendation could be, something that we need to do urgently, especially when you are using when you are developing a model and you've been able to predict that in the next 5 years or in the next 10 years or in the next 7 years, certain things will happen. And you want the government to take urgent steps to avert those things. So you see that your paper could actually trigger a policy direction for the government. That is the importance of a good technical paper. And trust me, when you are able to conclude well, it will show in your abstract. There's nobody that will see your abstract that will not be interested in your paper. The moment you nail it in your abstract, I can tell you, you're on your way to winning any kind of award anywhere. Having said that, before I progress to the next key elements, can we have some questions and contributions and just take a second to absorb what we've said? All right, so there's a question here from Shei. Shei, thank you so much for this wonderful question. You know, I love feedbacks. It excites me when I see feedbacks. It means that I'm communicating. Okay, sometimes silence could mean anything. I really appreciate this feedback. So your question is that about the integrity of data, data gathered, that correct scientific method is used to gather data. Okay, I know that what you're trying to say is that what correct scientific method is used to gather data, which is better, primary data that is researcher trust is scientific method, or secondary data that is research trust. Okay, I understand what you're saying anyway. So you want to find out how to, what is the best scientific method to gather your data. Of course, there are a lot of methods out there for data acquisition. For, you know, when you are mapping out how to source your data, usually at the student levels, the simple random method can be used. You have the quota system or quota method. There are quite a lot of them out there. But for primary data, the reason why we prefer the primary data is that it is you who is conducting the experiment. It is you who is generating the raw data, so you can trust it. You have some level of trust. Okay. There are certain things I will not want to bore us at this level, because even that data that you've acquired, you need to subject it to some test. You know, you want to know whether there's autocorrelation. You want to know whether the data is stationary. You know, before you start carrying out, you process it into meaningful information. There's some tests you subject that data to. You know, that is a different. I could spend another one full day discussing that. Okay, so primary data is preferable if you can. Then for secondary data, the reason we are a little bit careful with secondary data is usable, but you must be sure of where you are obtaining it from. You must be sure of where you are obtaining that secondary data from. Okay, so for example, if you're picking up a data from the website, you know, you should go to credible sources. Incredible sources will mean, you know, official sources. Official sources. Nigeria has an official source. National Bureau of Statistics, for example, is an official source. The DPR is an official source. You cannot just go to Legit or go to nara.com and just pick up data from there. No. The World Bank is a trusted source. For example, you know, anything also you get from SPE is also very trusted. You know, that is why we encourage SPE members to seek materials from SPE. Okay, so you need to get data from trusted sources, especially when you are using secondary data. Shea, I don't know if I've answered your question.
Yes, sir, your answer has been spot on. I just wanted to chip in that. Could it also be that you are using primary data because maybe you don't have the resources or the financial capacity to carry out those empirical scientific
Okay. All right, thank you, Shay, for that feedback. Then Wasiu is saying, can you summarize the characteristics of a good abstract? The characteristics of a good abstract. Okay, so we said the abstract should cover the objective and the scope of your research work. We also said your abstract should contain key findings, you know, and then your abstract should also contain principal conclusions. You know, what are the key areas you are going to conclude your technical papers around? You may not necessarily pick everything from your conclusion part, but that key result you want to make visible. That is what should show up in the abstract. Okay, I don't know if I've answered Wasiu. Then the next question here says, how do you deal with bias in data sets to fit your conclusion? How do you deal with deal with biases in data set just to fit your conclusion? So, like I said, you know, this is just one part. If we want to go into data analysis, we'll now begin to look at different ways to resolve bias. You know, that is where you subject your hypothesis to test. Okay, so for example, if your technical paper is around formulating a theory, in a theory formulation, you start by having an hypothesis. That there are two types. You have the null hypothesis and the alternate hypothesis. Okay, so the null hypothesis, you are saying, for example, you are stating you're making a statement. You could say, if you are going to do a research around how to get to Benin from Lagos, you can say, oh, it's not possible to get to Benin. That would be your null hypothesis. Then the next statement would be, oh, it is possible to get to Benin. That would be your alternate hypothesis. So many times we take the null hypothesis as your negative statement and then the alternate as your positive statement. It is that statement you now put to test using data, using empirical data. And there are statistical tools to do that, you know, to test for serial correlation. You want to test the level of significance, whether that statement is significant or not significant. The result of that test will determine whether you should reject the null hypothesis or accept the alternate hypothesis. So there are different statistical tools used to carry out this test, just to ensure that your level of bias is reduced. Or else anybody can just pick up data and just subject it to any kind of test and come up with conclusion. No, in science, there are standards, there are processes you must take that to. For example, if you want to look at the relationship between two variables using the simple least square method, you see there are assumptions. Each of those assumptions, you know, must be satisfied for that model to be credible, for that model to be usable. And to satisfy those assumptions, you have to go through those statistical tools, like as I mentioned. Okay, that itself, you know, that is probably we'll pick up another date to discuss on data analysis itself. We could spend the whole day discussing that. You know, that is why I did not want to dabble into that, because it's another subject area entirely. Okay. I don't know if I spoke to that question, Osa. Then Osa also asked, how many samples do you think one can take to be able to make inference or conclusions that could be generally acceptable? Okay, so for us who are researchers, the more data you have, the better. We want to, if you're looking at a trend, if you're considering a panel data, you know, you should be looking at 10 years. 10 years, okay? 10 years is okay. 5 to 10 years is suitable. If you're looking at a sizable, you're picking up samples, there's a formula for calculating a sample size. If you're using a sample to represent the population parameter, there's a minimum you can use. The more sample you use, the more representative you are likely to have with relation to this population parameter. So, for example, if you want to look at the population of Lagos, you see, you cannot just go and start counting everybody in Lagos. So you would need to look at local government by local government. Even within the local government, you cannot start counting every household. So you could decide to say, okay, I'm going to use this number of local government to represent the population size of Lagos. You know, simple random method. You know, there are scientific ways of going about this. You know, and I really love us to look at that outside this workshop, because the more data you acquire, the more representative, the more guaranteed, the more that sureness that you've been able to fit in. You know, you've been able to reach almost every part of your population parameter. These things are very, very key in carrying out your analysis. Okay, thank you, Osa, for your response. I'm sure I've been able to deal with some of those questions. Okay. Before we go further, do we have any more questions around this subject matter? Any comments? All right, thank you, sir, for that feedback. Benga, do you have any question, any comment, any clarification?
Okay, for me, good, thank you. I have a question. I don't know if you said, because I think I actually lost track at some point. Okay, I know people write paper reviews, and I know maybe probably publish it and all. So how does this come in? How do you put papers together to publish, then more like a review, not doing any new experiments? So what actually makes you fit to do a paper review, and when should you do a paper review?
Okay, so thank you, student chair, for that wonderful question. I actually planned looking at how to publish a paper, maybe when we carry out the paper review section, but since you brought it up, I could just see one or two things and then we'll leave it to when we get to that session. To review a paper is simply taking up any paper, and then you look at the paper, you look at if the paper written meets the outline, like we've discussed, standard outline. Okay, we've discussed this. We already know, is the title good enough? Is the abstract captivating? Is there a flow of discussion from the introduction? The literature review, was it properly done? The discussion, the results that were generated, was it properly graphed? Was it properly displayed? Was there a good conclusion? So typically, that's how you review a paper. And then by the time you are done, you cannot say, oh, this paper, even though it had a wonderful idea, but it was not properly presented, didn't follow the standard outline. Then second, in paper review, one thing that that you look at for in paper review is that you look at for gaps. You look out for gaps because that is where you actually get very good project topics. What are the gaps? What are the recommendations from the paper? What are the areas of further studies recommended by the author? So but at the end of the review, you can say, oh, from what I've noticed in this paper, the paper addressed this, but these are the gaps. So those gaps will now be meant for further studies. I don't know if I've been able to answer that, student chair.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, so let's take a breather, probably 1 second, and just digest what we've discussed so far. And if there's anybody who still have any question, we can take some of those ones as we take a breather. All right, welcome back, guys. Thank you so much for your patience. Thank you so much for your attention. I believe at the end of this this session, I expect that so many of us will put forward papers that we break record. 150K is at stake. I also believe that some of you will begin to put together abstract for the upcoming SPE conference. We want to see a Lagos session well represented. We want to look back and say, oh, this workshop was beneficial, especially to Lagos session and to every other session, those who participated from other sessions. We want to see students participate. It's a wonderful thing to present paper. I remember my first time I presented paper, it was a wonderful feeling for me. And since then, I've been in the business of trying to encourage people to write more papers. I also run a small research group where I prompt people to write papers. I have collaborations with students across the nation, where we sit down and coin out a paper for publications. So I want to see that collaboration. I believe that the more we start writing, the better we become. And that does not make me in any way an expert. I get better with more papers that I write. Okay, I see areas that I need to improve on. That's the beautiful thing about paper writing. The more you write, the better you become. And to a large extent, it has also helped me in my office because I see everything from a data perspective. I play with data in my office, and people know that each time I talk from that position. I don't just say anything without having justification for what I'm saying, and that is what makes you a good researcher. Okay, now one key thing that we need to consider in our technical paper is referencing your work. Referencing your work simply means giving credit to people whose work you consulted. In your literature review, you read people's work. You probably understood the phenomenon, the title, the topic better when you consulted their work. It is important you cite them. It is a grievous offense if you don't cite people's work and you present it in a technical paper. In fact, I'm sure in the SPE board will not tolerate that, the review board, because it's criminal to use people's work without citing it. So we've seen cases where people were denied graduation because they did not cite, they did not properly reference their work. Any work that is not referenced means that it's your original work. And if it is discovered that it is not your original work, it becomes a criminal issue. I know a friend of mine who wrote a book and completely took somebody's work and carved it into his own book. The person arrested him, took him to court. He had to pay through his nose to get out of it. So please, let's be mindful of this particular area. There are 4 widely used referencing styles or conventions. You have the Modern Language Association system. You have the American Psychological Association, and you have the Harvard system, and you have the Modern Humanities Research Association. Each of the institutions choose which style to adopt. UI has its own system. Uniben has its own system. Uniport has its own system. Like for those of us in Uniport, those of us doing our PhD work in Uniport, we've adopted the APA system. So it means that in referencing your work, the author's name should come first, followed by the year that that work was done, then the title, then the publishing firm that published the work. So you must follow those guidelines. To learn more about the APA system, please read it up. It's very, very important to help you. You don't need any consultant to help you do your reference. You can do it yourself. And then when you are doing your referencing, you should arrange it alphabetically, from A to Z. These things are simple. It's just for you to pay attention to these little details. And I can tell you, if you have a very captivating topic, you've written your abstract very well, there's a flow of discussion in your introduction and literature review, your results are properly presented in graphs and charts, and you're able to conclude. And then your references are well arranged using any of this system. SPE has a standard system. Consult the SPE guidelines. If you do this, there's no way you will not be a candidate of an award. There's no way your technical paper will not ring a bell. There's no way. And I can tell you, we can actually collect all the awards if every one of us pay attention to these details. Okay, having said that, let's look at the do's and don'ts in a technical paper presentation. I've already said this in the course of my presentation. Number 1, write using simple sentences. Some of us, we like using high-sounding words. Communication is the ability to make a statement that is understandable by your audience. If whatever you are saying is not understood by your audience, you have not communicated. So whatever you are going to write, use simple sentences. Don't try to be a professor of linguistics. Use common language. Be organized. Be organized. And then another thing again that is very important is that you carry out proofreading. After writing, give your work to somebody to read, to identify grammatical errors. Or sometimes when you carry out proofreading, you discover that your thoughts are not flowing. You rephrase to ensure that it's flowing. One thing you want to avoid is grammatical errors. For example, in my slide, you see that I noticed that instead of writing data, I wrote date. Even though I read it over and over again last night, you see, because I'm just an individual, if I sent it to somebody to proofread, the person would have discovered it. So it is important that a second eye or even a third eye should look at your technical paper before you send it out. Because once it goes out, there may likely be no room for correction. And it's not good when they are reviewing your paper and they are seeing all manners of grammatical errors. So don't avoid grammatical errors. And lastly, avoid plagiarism. I've explained that plagiarism is when you use other people's work without citing it, without referencing it to them, without acknowledging it that it is not your original work, that this thing you use belongs to somebody else. And plagiarism is a serious crime. In some universities, you may not be allowed to graduate. You will be expelled for plagiarism. In fact, for us in Uniport at the PhD level, you may lose your admission. So that's how serious it is. So usually when you are ready with your work is sent for plagiarism test to show that that work is authentic. And I think what is acceptable is about less than 10% of other people's work in your work. Okay, for the little competition we did, we allowed 40% because we understand it's student work. Okay, so but for a standard work, it should not be more than 10%. So when you have a score of more than 10%, it's not good. But of course, university, it differs from university to university. Some universities will allow 15%. There are even some other universities that will not even allow more than 5%. So please find out from the conference organizers where you are sending your technical paper to, what percent of plagiarism is allowed, and ensure you conduct that test. You ensure that you carry out a proper work before sending it out to avoid that embarrassment and disgrace. All right, before we go further, any question, contribution, just 1 second breather before we progress.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon.
You mentioned working with students to write paper. So I want to ask, how for we in other universities like UI, how do we get access to you? How do we work to write?
All right, thank you, Wasil. Usually when students reach out to me, I organize them into a group. So for example, those in UI or those in Uniport, you could organize yourself into a group of 2 or 3 or 4. The smaller the group, the better. I could come in as a mentor where we discuss different papers that could be useful for presentation in different kinds of journals. So that is what I do basically. Within the students community, I prefer to keep it within our student community so that it do not be a miss. I will not start missing Uniport and Uniben or UI and AAU. So it's important you organize yourself. If you cannot find other people to form a group, you could reach out to me directly. You could reach out to me directly. By the end of this workshop, my email address and WhatsApp number will be displayed. We could take it. I can take it off from there. I love research. I love paper writing. That is what gives me excitement. You know, I could do this all day, right? We could take up different subject matters, you know. And I believe that the more we start having this conversation across different universities, the better our paper qualities are. The aim is to improve students' ability to put forward very good papers for different kinds of journals. And there are some journals also you publish that require you to pay, but sometimes I will help to subsidize that. So I could help to publish so that your name will also be in the published work. And it's beautiful to know that your name is in the published work and people can cite that work anytime, any day. And I can tell you, if you're at 300 level, 400 level, you could publish 1, 2, 3, 4 papers before your graduation. And I can tell you, during your presentation, the way you present will be different. I can tell you that. the way you present your thesis will be different because you published. And those professors will acknowledge that you are doing well, that you've done well. Sometimes they won't bother you so much when they know that your work has been published. Okay. Any other question before progress?
Thank you very much, sir. We will be happy to reach out to you.
Any other question before we progress? All right, let's take 1 minute to just consider all that we've learned so far. If you want to find out more about SPE Lagos and our upcoming events, please visit www.spelagos.org or send us a mail at studentsaffairschair@spelagos.org. We would love to hear from you. In fact, we enjoy hearing from students. We'll respond to you as quickly as possible when we get your mails. Feel free to reach out to us anytime, any day. SPE Lagos, we truly care. We love to have this interaction with our student bodies. We've been there before. We know what it is to be a student. I'm open to receive calls. If you call me, I don't respond to you. Trust me, I will return your call anytime, any day. The whole essence of what we are doing is to serve humanity. And we are also helping you to stand on your feet so that you can also help others who are coming behind you. So let's take a minute to absorb all that we've talked about. And then if you have any question, contribution, please feel free to do that. I'll just give you 60 seconds to do that. Okay, so I assume, okay, is Adeba, are you trying to say something? Please go ahead. Adeba, are you trying to say something? All right, so let's look at the paper review section and then we'll take some questions. Please keep the questions coming in. If you have any question, keep them coming in. Adeba, you are trying to say something. Please go ahead if you have something to say. All right, so while we're waiting for others to respond, I'll stop sharing this and then we'll look at, oh, good. There's a question from Wasiu. Wasiu, thank you so much for that question. You know, I love the way you structure your question, very, very fantastic. I wish I can get more questions from you. Where do we get topic ideas from? Well, I see there are a lot of, in fact, as I'm talking now, I'm sure you are getting topic ideas. So you could get topic ideas even from the market. So you discover something that is not right. You see that there's something that could be done better, you know, and you come up with an idea. That idea, you formulate a topic from that idea. You could get a topic idea from reviewed technical papers from other authors. You could get topic ideas from your supervisor, your conversation from your supervisor, or your course advisor, or your mentor. You know, sometimes we could start discussing about functional areas, and then an idea will struck in your heart. You know, many times, because I do a lot of reading, each time I read, I normally have a notebook where I just write down things. You know, I have a lot of topic ideas from series of readings I've done. Okay, you could get topic ideas from current events. You know, what is going on around the oil and gas sector. For example, with the influence of nations pursuing renewables, what would be the future of OPEC, for example? If by 2050, there's net zero carbon emission, which Nigeria is signing, will it be relevant for Nigeria to still be a member of OPEC, assuming OPEC is still in existence? With the emerging influence of renewables, what will be the future of OPEC? That's the good topic you need to look at. You could also look at, okay, technologies around CO2 emission. Somebody mentioned that, because that is very critical for the survival of the oil and gas. Another thing also you can also look at is, they've been talking about so much clamor around fossil fuel. We don't want fossil fuel because it's dirty, it's increasing CO2 emission and all that. But yet these Western nations are busy signing up gas deals. Germany just signed up a gas deal with Russia to supply Russia, you know, for Russia to supply Germany gas, because Germany is a heavy industrialized nation. You know, they need power to sustain this industry push. You know, so what will be the future of gas? What will be the relevance of gas in this within the scope of these emerging technologies? You know, so are we saying that we'll be doing gas and no more oil? Another topic you can also look at now, with these evolving technologies, or this the emerging renewable, the advancement. We study petroleum engineering still be relevant? Will universities begin to adapt such that the way oil companies are changing from oil and gas company to energy company? Will universities start adopting energy engineering? What will be the subject or focus of studies in our universities? So too many ideas, too many topics. Okay, so you could look at your immediate environment. You could look at your external environment. You could look at policy matters. Another good example, with the PIA, what will be the impact of PIA on the oil and gas industry in Nigeria? Of what impact will it be? Will it improve our production capacity? You know, so there are too many topics out there begging for answers. Another one, the AKK project that connects the gas pipeline to North. What will be the impact of that pipeline to the industrialization drive of the northern geopolitical zone of this country? What will be the impact? You see, too many topic ideas out there for us to look at. Wasi, should I continue?
Sir, I get you really expatiated the answer enough. I get you.
Okay, so
thank you very much, sir, for the response. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Wasu. Thank you so much. You can reach out to us to our Students Affairs here at spelagos.org. Okay, any correspondence to that email address will be seen by us. All right, thank you. All right.
I'll
So let
share
us,
it out.
yeah, please go ahead. Please go ahead. Somebody is trying to say something. All right, let's review the paper, maybe one of the papers, and then we can close this session. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing this and then pick up the paper. All right, can we see what I'm sharing? Can you see the paper? Can we see, can we look at the topic, the abstract, the conclusion, and then let's point out observations from what we've discussed in today's workshop, looking at the paper presented. All right, there's a question from Adebayo with respect to Wasiu's question. Outside Google, how do we access information pertaining to our research? So I said that Google is not a good place to get research materials. I prefer using Science Direct or using OnePro. There are a lot of materials also in SPE. There are journals you can also consult in the library. You can also use textbooks, good textbooks. You know, you need to pick out a functional area you want to that you want to focus on. I didn't mention that if you are studying petroleum engineering, for example, there are functional areas in petroleum engineering. You have drilling, you have reservoir, you have production, you have petroleum economics. So choose a particular functional area, you know, and then you can carve out a topic from such functional areas and consult textbooks and materials that you need. Okay, having said that, let's go straight to the review. So one thing we can see from this paper I'm displaying, one thing we can see here is that the topic is, just a minute, developing production optimization software. Developing production optimization software, nodal analysis. I see this as an incomplete, it's a good topic, but it's not complete. It's not complete because it's not giving us, if you look at the work, that was done, the topic did not really capture the key result elements from the research work. Okay, so that's the first thing I noticed in this topic. What I mean is that if you look at the last paragraph in your result, it says from this analytical plot that generated by the developed software, it can be deduced that the most suitable tubing size that gives well configuration was 6-inch tubing ID. So if you choose the right tubing size, it will help to optimize production. That is the whole essence of this research work. So the software helps you to select the right tubing size as your production string. You see, very fantastic idea, but the topic did not truly capture the entire essence of the work that was done. Good abstract layout. The introduction for me was a little bit too scanty. There's no literature review. You didn't tell us which materials that was. The material cited, you didn't tell us what was cited. You only referenced it, but you didn't tell us what was cited. The objectives are okay, but I think the objectives can be compressed. Materials and methods are okay. The conclusion is also okay. I'll pass that. I love the graphs. But I would have loved also that these graphs that were presented, a one-line discussion, implication of these graphs are discussed. That will form your discussion of results. Okay. So having done that, I don't know if there's anybody who have any other comment on this before we look at the second paper. So it's a good paper by Osborne, but it needs to look at some of these feedbacks. With respect to the competition, this paper did not actually speak to the topic we chose. The topic we chose was the technology advances and comparative economic evaluation in well intervention operations. So there are two things we are looking at in the topic we chose. We're looking at any particular technology in well intervention. What are the advances? So I would have loved to see, this technology. This technology was formulated in 1970. In 1980, there was an upgrade. In 2000, there was another upgrade. So the advances. So you mention the technology, and they tell us how it has advanced, the trend from when it was designed or produced to where it is now. And then the second part of the topic is looking at what is the economics? How much is it? How much was it when it was designed or formulated or produced? And how much is it now? So it's a very simple, straightforward